I'd like to call the February 16, 2022 regular February meeting of the Fenton Community High School District 100 Board to order. May I have a roll call?
Yes. Figueroa?
Here.
Cade?
Here.
Jalwick?
Here.
Lewis?
Here.
Redzinski?
Here.
Rago?
Here.
Ting-Pal-Pong?
Here, we have a quorum. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
James, please join me in reading our Fenton mission, beliefs, and bias way statements.
Our Fenton mission statement: to cultivate successful, passionate, empowered learners through rigor, relevance, and relationships. Our Fenton belief statement: successful, passionate, empowered learners thrive when we provide a safe, caring, and welcoming environment. Diversity, equity, and inclusion unify our community. School and home collaborate as one. We champion innovative teaching and engaged learning with state-of-the-art facilities. We infuse social emotional learning into academics and culture. We prepare students to fulfill their civic responsibilities. We immerse students in authentic life experiences. The Bison Way: students and adults at Fenton High School create a safe, caring, empathetic environment where we believe in each other, respect diversity, communicate openly, grow together, and hold each other to high expectations to become the leaders and innovators of the future.
Thank you, James. Dr. Benson, recognitions? Oh, my apologies. Mary, do we have any requests for public comments today?
Yes, we do. We have 2 this evening.
Okay, thank you. Just as the reminder, public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, per speaker, and limited to 30 minutes per topic.
First speaker, Aaron Hausen. And the topic is masks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I read that it was a 3-minute time period, but we were told actually that it was 5 minutes. Would that be
Right,
okay?
that was my mistake, but I think we could certainly, board
That's fine.
discretion.
We'll allow it.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet, you bet.
Good evening. Some of you already know me, as our families volunteered side by side together in the community for years, and you know how much that we care about the kids here. Some of you have welcomed our children into your homes, where we have no question that they are in safe hands. I know what it's like to serve on a board, and I would like to extend my gratitude for your service. I do not want this to be taken personally, yet we're here fighting for our children, and I can think of nothing more personal. Our family currently has 2 students enrolled at Fenton, and we are not insensitive to the tragedies befallen other families due to COVID, as we have experienced our share of loss over the last 2 years. We believe that the decisions made to enforce the mask originally were done so in the interest of the children's health and well-being. But it has been 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic, and it is time to start start waking up to the fact that the enforcement of the masks is no longer the best way to protect our community. Health and well-being extends much deeper than just virus transmission. What about the mental health of our children? Let's start talking about the constraining environment that they are made to navigate in school each day. During the phase of life in which they are already struggling to carve out an identity, while simultaneously preparing for their ever-nearing adulthood responsibilities. These additional constraints weigh heavily on their minds and spirit, causing anxiety and depression to mount to sometimes dangerous levels. That is the very definition of oppressive. Recently, our daughter, who struggles with anxiety and depression, revealed to us that she was having a full-blown panic attack episode on the floor of the girls' bathroom. She was found by a hall monitor who, instead of helping her calm down and catch her breath, instructed her to pull her mask up. and to leave the bathroom where she couldn't stay. She walked my daughter to the conference room and told her that she would let someone know that she was there. Our daughter sat in that conference room for an entire period with nobody checking on her. She let herself out and came home when the bell rang. I didn't even know that that happened until this morning when she told me. She just chalked it up to another day at school. Do you know what a panic attack looks like? Clearly, the staff at Fenton is ill-trained in these matters and lacks the capacity to deal with them. We cannot keep our blinders on to the things going on around us that defy common sense. I am not a scientist, so I'm not going to give statistics or numbers, but one doesn't have to be a scientist to apply critical thinking skills to the things that they observe. For the last 4 months, we have come to watch groups of students play basketball against one another, strangers to one another, slapping, clawing, grappling on the floor with each other in attempts to gain control of one ball. The same ball that is then passed from player to player to player, who are usually covered in sweat. Then they shake hands with the opposing team at the end of it all while having to cover their face. That doesn't seem like solid logic. These children are leaving school and getting into cars with friends, no masks. They're going to each other's houses to hang out, no masks. The teachers are hanging out with each other at bars, no masks. So what purpose are they now still serving in our schools? We understand the fear surrounding the subject. I'm a mother. I get it. I'm not immune to fear. I just had to learn when it was helpful and when it was harmful and how to keep it in check. I still do. I had to come to terms with the fact that I cannot control everything, and maybe that it wasn't even my place to try to do so because my children are their own people. Since Judge Grishaw's ruling that Governor Pritzker has been exercising powers he never possessed and deemed enforcement of the mask mandate against the law, our girls have decided to exercise their rights and have been coming to school unmasked. Each morning they are turned away and told that they may not enter their school building. Illinois provides education as a matter of right. The school is infringing upon that right by continuing to deny these students access to the school building and the same in-person instruction as all the other students. These girls are tired of allowing others to assume control over the governing of their bodies and health. They are choosing to use their voices, which we commend, especially in a time when most cannot find their own or don't even believe that they have one. We are choosing to live our lives the way that God intended, with faith and without fear. We have the right to govern ourselves accordingly within the parameters of the law. We do not co-parent with the school, and I'm personally grateful for that because it appears that the meaning and efficacy of lessons taught in history and science within these very walls have been lost on the majority. Please, it is time to end this madness and make masks optional. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to vote on it right now? No?
Next speaker, Bob.
I want to say thank you. That was very heartfelt. Thank you. I know it really came from the heart.
Bob Silvetti. I'm sorry if I misspelled your last name, mispronounced it.
I don't think they can hear you.
Bob Silvetti is the next speaker.
They have left. Oh, Bob, there he is.
The topic is also masks.
Good evening. My name is Mike Solaric, and I just wanted to build on the idea of the last mentioned comments about the mask mandate at Fenton High School. I, along with other students that I can speak for, believe that masks should be optional at Fenton. We talk about it all the time at lunch, in classes. Kids complain. There's kids that support it, there's kids that are against it, but ultimately it should be optional. One example that I noticed that's pretty hypocritical in my opinion is the fact that we sit for 8 hours a day with masks on, and then we can go to lunch for 45 minutes without a mask on, and then sit there, talk to each other, and then the next 3 hours of the day we go back in masks, and that's just a problem I see personally. Next, I'd like to address the issue of Elk Grove High School, York High School, and Addison Trail not requiring masks. And we're another local school, so I believe that we should follow in their footsteps. Another example is over the Super Bowl weekend. There's people at parties at the Super Bowl, many of them without masks. Parents, kids, friends, families, all together in one building. Then the next day, so Monday, they send their kids to school without a mask on. Where's the logic in that? I believe that Fenton should make masks optional and end the mandate. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the public comments today, and we all as a board appreciate you engaging with us in that, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. So next we'll go with Dr. Benson and recognitions here. So let's celebrate some excellence.
Thank you very much. And Michelle and Sochi, if you please come forward. As many of you may know, the College Board produces common exams like the SAT, PSAT, and advanced placement exams. A few years ago, the College Board created an initiative or a national recognition program for underrepresented groups. And this is a highly respected honor, prestigious, and it involves top 10% in the PSAT, or they either qualify through AP exams, 2 or more exams where they get a 3. And so, and they also have to have at least a 3.5 GPA. So these young ladies here are both qualified. So we congratulate them on this prestigious award, which should help them in their college application process and what they want to do in the future. So we're going to start out with Michelle Ajuman, selected for the National African American Recognition Award through the College Board.
Thank you for having me here today. I first want to thank my parents first off. My dad's here today, and I just really would not be here where I am without him and my mom just leading me and influencing me and challenging me throughout my childhood and my high school years. I feel like being a student of color, especially a black student here at Fenton, there has been a lot of times where I felt encouraged to use my voice, encouraged and recognized for all the hard work that I put into my education. Knowing that there's an award that supports me as a black student, my hard work and my dedication to school and my studies, I'm really glad to see that there's something like that for people like me and the future kids that are coming up after me. I really think that this is something that is going to change the world, honestly, for the kids who aren't really spoken for in this country. I honestly can't really still believe that it's real, and I'm just really glad to see my education and my hard work being validated, so thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and I know she's going to go right back to choir rehearsal, right, Michelle? So thanks. Now, next is Sochi. We go to the next slide,
Next
please.
slide, Jim.
Yeah, there she is. And Sochi, who's also very involved in a variety of activities. Congratulations on the National Hispanic Recognition Award.
Last time I was here, I did not prepare a speech, but this time I did. And then if it's okay, I'd like to repeat it in Spanish so that when my parents watch it again, right? Okay, thank you. I'd like to first thank Ms. Georgakis. If she hadn't emailed me reminding me to apply, I obviously wouldn't have won it. Of course, I'd mostly like to thank my parents for continuing to show endless support in my academic career. I have never felt unsafe or uncomfortable vocalizing my grades, scores, motivation for school, or opinion over my classes. And I know it's because you always valued growth over perfection. I can't wait to see what else these next 3 months have in store for us. Thank you. And then in Spanish. Me gustaría primero agradecer a la señora Georgakis. Si no me hubiera enviado un correo electrónico recordándome que presentara mi solicitud, obviamente no habría ganado. Por supuesto, también me gustaría agradecer a mis padres por seguir brindando un apoyo infinito en mi tiempo aquí en Fenton. Nunca me he sentido insegura o incómoda platicando de mis calificaciones, puntajes, motivación y opiniones sobre mis clases. Y sé que es porque ustedes siempre valoraron el progreso y el crecimiento en vez de la perfección. No puedo esperar a ver qué más nos espera estos próximos 3 meses. Gracias.
And now typically we do take a picture. If you could step forward here. First, got a quick picture of Michelle receiving her award. That's okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, congratulations. Maybe switch with Sochi real quick. All right. Okay, all right. There you go.
Come on down.
Absolutely.
Let's get right to informational items.
Sure, thank you so much. We got a full agenda here. I would like to invite the E.O. Sullivan Consultant, Phase 3 report and recommendation. Mr. Collins here, along with the rest of the team, STR, Mr. Grossi.
Hey everyone, thank you for having us out again. We've gone through several phases of this process and we now have our report from Phase 3 to present to you. And so we'll walk through that. You've obviously had a chance to review. There's a lot of data that we provided. We're going to focus on the highlights here to make sure that everyone understands kind of what's been presented and what it means moving forward. In this entire process, we've received nearly 1,000 points of feedback from members of the public. That's an excellent number. We're very excited to see that. It means you have a very engaged community that's interested in this process and certainly wants to provide their feedback on the future of Fenton. So that was great to see. As you know, we've gone to the public in a number of different ways to give them opportunities to provide feedback through in-person presentations, committee meetings, multiple phone surveys, online feedback forms. We've done things in person and in virtual. We provided things in English and in Spanish. Basically, if you wanted to give feedback, you had multiple opportunities to give feedback. And that was our goal, was to make sure that anyone who wanted to have their voice heard in this process was able to do so. In this phase 3 alone, we had 443 responses to the phone survey and 111 responses directly from members of the community. So very good numbers that is driving the data that we're about to present. What you'll see, there's a lot there, so I'll walk you through that bullet by bullet. But what we saw during the feedback, the first thing we always look at is the overall level of support for the process. This is where you might see things that tell you, hey, you can't move forward. But the good news is everything we've seen in this data says we are good to move forward. The community has said that they overall support doing something. Of course, it'll be our job together to figure out what that something looks like. But seeing 62% of support for at least one of the options was a very good number, while only 25% said that they don't want to move forward at all. Well, we'd like to see that 25% number be a little bit lower. It isn't enough that says, hey, listen, there's a problem, we need to stop. It just tells us we need to make sure that the final plan is a good consensus plan that the community can support. That second bullet there, we're going to start to get into some of those options. As you remember, we had 3 options. I know some of the district's experts are going to be talking you through and reminding you what is in those options and going through it with you. So I'll save that for the people who actually know what they're talking about. I'll just talk about them in generalities, which is that the data that we got back was that all 3 were in a decent position. One of the things to understand, remember we gathered data multiple ways. We talked to people what we call intuitively, so what their gut reaction is. And then we talk to people when they have a little bit more time to digest and understand the information. And we talk to people once they've had a lot of time to really ask questions and get involved. That shows us how people's opinions change as they get more information and know more of what we're talking about. That first bullet focuses on that intuitive reaction. This is where we typically see people who don't know a lot of what's going on, so their initial reaction is just do what you can for as little as possible. That's always the answer we get in every time in this process. And you see that here, where option 1 was the favorite of this group, of the more intuitive group, at plus 17. Option 2, they're split on. It's right around break even at -2. Option 3 at -11. One thing I want to point out is that usually in this process, when we get to this stage with other school districts, what we see is that number for option 3 is usually around -20 or more, not a -11. So while it is always a negative number, the good news is it's less negative. I hope there's no English teachers in the room, than we would typically see at this stage. What you see there at that third bullet is that those who are a little bit more engaged and a little bit more passionate, they show their preference more towards option 2. So you see with the previous group, they were a bit split. Option 3, option 1, option 2, about even. With the people who are more engaged, they show a clear preference for option 2, and then option 3, and then option 1. That second to last bullet there, those are the people who are the most engaged. They show support for 3, then 2, then 1. What does this mean? What it means is that the more engaged, the more informed people are of what the challenges are, what the needs are, the more they move from supporting option 1 to option 2 and then option 3. That's an important thing that I want to point out here. We're going to get more into that in future slides. Going to the next slide there. Okay, so now without thinking about elections, without thinking about referendums, just as a plan, what would this mean to us? What we see in that is that you could move forward with option 1 immediately. You'd have no concerns, it would move forward, you'd have no trouble getting something like that passed as a referendum. The challenge is that it doesn't cover a lot of the things that get people excited, that get people passionate. It really doesn't touch a lot of those educational components that would improve outcomes for students and that would improve outcomes for the community. And so while option 1 is passable, ultimately we've seen challenges with other districts where if you don't include those educational components, you get what's apathy. You get a lack of excitement from members of the community. So while option 1 is doable, it isn't the path that we would recommend moving forward. The second bullet there goes into option 2. You could move forward with option 2 immediately based on the data. One caveat with that is it would need to be paired with an educational campaign to make sure the public was well aware of what's included in that option, why it was something that the district felt was important to move forward, and what led us to that point. If you did that, we believe option 2 would be successful immediately. Option 3 is doable. There's not negative signs that we see that would say that option 3 is not doable. You would simply need to make sure you engage the community before you move forward with an option 3 to make sure they know what's involved in that. And so with option 3, we'd suggest a little bit of time before you move forward in that. But it would definitely, we believe, would achieve support and would be passable if you did that effort. Now we've got to talk about the reality of elections, because if you were to move forward with any of these plans, it means a referendum. So let's talk about what the upcoming elections are and why that matters. There are 3 elections coming up. You have one in June, one in November, and one in next April. Each of those elections will have we call it turnout. Different people will be showing up because there'll be candidates on the ballot, there'll be issues in the ballot that they're passionate about. And so each of these 3 elections, you will see a different turnout. And the upcoming June primary election, you're going to see a turnout that is mostly older, less minority driven, more white, and more conservative. We'll talk about why that matters as we get to the next slide. The November election will be a bit more balanced of a turnout. You're not going to see specific subgroups that are really overrepresented in the November election. The April election in 2023 is predicted to attract usually a very small and typically a much older electorate. Let's go to the next slide. We're going to talk about why that matters. Ultimately, depending on the referendum that you move forward, next slide, please. Ultimately, depending on the type of option,
Jim.
the path that you choose forward, that path is going to be tied to certain groups are going to be very excited about it, certain groups may not be excited about it. And so using the election data, that drives our recommendation here on this slide. Option 1 and option 2, so strong enough support that you could move forward with either one in the primary election in June. We believe both would be successful. Again, with that understanding that with option 2, you would still need to run an educational campaign to move people from sort of that initial group to a little bit more of an informed group. But either one would be successful. Option 3 shows the projects included in option 3 are shown to be much more favorable with the turnout that would be coming out in November, a more balanced turnout. Again, because usually what we see is people who are a little bit more conservative, they want to see protection of the infrastructure. So they love, like option 1, as you'll hear, has a lot of infrastructure in it. That's why those are things that they'll really like to see. Whereas when you see parents and typically females, younger people, they want to see that educational aspect of it. That's what you see getting into more in options 2 and option 3. And so with that more balanced turnout in November, that would tell us that if you wanted to move forward with option 3, our recommendation would be to do so in November because that will be a turnout that will be more favorable to that option. That said, because we have 2 elections within 5 months of each other, which hasn't happened before, at least not in over a decade, you have a unique opportunity in front of you where if you did want to move forward with option 3, you could do so in June. It is at least a bit unlikely to pass, but not impossible. At least opens up the chance that it could pass in June. But the more important part of why we would say this is a viable path is it gives people an opportunity to find out what is in that path, ask questions about it, become more engaged, and get that information. And if it didn't succeed in June, you then have an immediate opportunity in November to run it again in that election that, as we said, would be a bit more balanced of a turnout. And so this isn't an option that we typically would recommend because you usually don't have these 2 elections so close to each other. But here in 2022, you do have this unique opportunity where that is a path you could pursue. This is it's a little bit more costly to do this, a little bit more labor intensive, but again, it opens up that opportunity that you could get option 3 as quickly as June. And we know that with the rising costs of inflation, supply chain issues, every month that you delay certainly increases costs. And I know the district is very focused on fiscal responsibility, so it's something to think about. And so those are the options available to you. Now that I've blathered on about the options, I want to bring the experts up to explain what those options are.
Thank you, Colin. Yeah, I'd like to present the options that were used for that survey. And again, the charge was to create some distinctly different options to foster choice and discussion. So if we kind of drive through these, next please. Option 1 really concentrates on taking care of your existing building. So really the infrastructure and life safety issues focuses on items like roofing, protecting the outside masonry, a lot of work with your existing mechanical systems. Again, recognizing some of these pieces are almost 75 years old. Plumbing, electrical, issues like that. Also, there's a security component here too. Your existing front entrance is very robust, but this really focuses on all your other entrances. So that's really kind of a nutshell for option 1. Option 2 starts to incorporate more items that are educationally based. You'll see some of these line item percentages have been adjusted to align with these targets, recognizing there's still flexibility and choices within these. So in addition to the life safety and maintenance that we discussed before, programming and career spaces, this includes items like science facilities, multimedia labs, construction technology. Again, the security is a consistent theme from before. Classroom modernization, this is where we touch all the existing classrooms. So lighting, classroom technology is improved in every classroom. So every classroom gets touched. Classroom capacity, this is the strategy where we're enlarging the smaller classrooms. So taking existing classrooms where you have 3 in a row, subdividing those again to make them 2. So 3 to 2 to make larger classrooms, We would also dedicate resources to replicate that capacity of that missing classroom. So there's an addition that compensates for that. The collaboration space is the next line item. This is really going to be installed throughout the building. This really creates opportunities for different types of educational practices, really focusing on the hallways, more informal spaces, small breakout rooms, and really disperse those throughout the campus. This is probably one of the biggest areas we've seen in 21st century learning. Music and performing arts. In this scenario, in option 2, we're renovating the existing facilities. We're really not fundamentally changing them, but improving them within the footprint that they're in now. So new surfaces, lighting, air handling, technology, and some ADA pieces to that. That's really option 2. Driving to option 3. Again, reoccurring themes here, life safety and infrastructure, programming and career spaces. Here we're really touching most of those, creating a new, within the existing spaces, creating new direct-to-work and direct-to-career programs within that. Security, again, classroom modernization is a consistent theme. Classroom capacity, here we're doing more of it. So really all the undersized classrooms would be replaced with new classrooms within the existing space of the appropriate size, supplemented by new spaces to accommodate the shortfall in the numbers. Collaboration space, again, more of it. Really spreading this out outside of the core disciplines, even into some of the ancillary things like the programming and career, languages, culinary, really giving those resources throughout the campus. Football stadium. So this really renovates your complete stadium. It'll convert it from a football-only facility to be able to accommodate competition soccer, new track, drainage relating to that, essentially a new facility in the existing location, just expanding it towards the south. Small portion of locker renovations. You have a lot of pretty dated locker rooms, particularly athletically and PE-wise. This is a portion of that work, really just an effort to start to improve that. Locker space is very expensive space to rework. Paving and paving modifications. You have a lot of paved surfaces. Some of it is not in ideal condition. So this is a portion or just a step on the road to improving that, fixing the worst conditions, not replanning it and not necessarily modifying the pickup and drop off. A contribution towards repairing the shifted tennis courts, and stormwater management. To do some of these improvements, we need to, code is very restrictive and very specific on stormwater issues. Whenever you do additions of any kind, or any really site modifications, you have to file for permits, and it's highly regulated in an effort to prevent water from becoming a problem for your neighbors. It's an important piece, and I think something that really involves some more thought. There's an overview for your information that dovetails with the categories that were surveyed. Now financial.
Good evening. My focus is going to be on the estimated impact of the various referendum scenarios on the taxpayers. For option 1, that would generate an annual impact to a median homeowner in the school district of approximately $116 per year. Option 2 will generate an impact of approximately $245 per year. And option 3 will generate an annual impact of approximately $380 per year. As a general rule of thumb, every $10 million that the district borrows will cost the median homeowner approximately $29 per year.
Okay, up on the screen we have a sample ballot question that the voters would see on election day. The question is fairly long and it's detailed, and that's driven really by, if it's approved, the Board of Education is required to use the bond proceeds to fund only the projects that are detailed in the question. The board is also required to complete the work that they are asking the community to approve. The first part of that question, shall the Board of Education of Fenton improve the site of and renovate, alter, repair, and equip? That's right out of the Illinois School Code. And then thereafter, it gets more specific to the entity that is requesting, the dollars, including installing school safety, emergency response systems. And this is based really on the projects that you've looked at earlier this evening. So that'll continue to be tweaked as we move through this process, but that's in essence what it would look like. Obviously, it would have a box next to it. You would check yes or no. And then the part, as far as the amount, that is left blank pending further discussion with the board. So that's what the proposed ballot sample question would look like.
And this graph compares the annual tax rate that the taxpayers pay for to pay debt for all the high school districts in DuPage County. And you can see that currently Fenton High School District 100 has the lowest bond and interest tax rate of all the high school districts in DuPage County. I'm going to turn it over now to Colin to talk about the timetable going forward.
All right, so what does this look like? Of course, this timeline is tentative, but if you wanted to move forward with a referendum for the June election, this is the timeline. Obviously, today we're discussing the options available to us. It would be at that next board meeting on March 16th where the board would need to vote in order to put a referendum on the ballot for June. And then the June election is on June 28th of this year. So that would be what the timeline looks ahead. Now we'll open it up to any questions you have for me or any of the gentlemen here.
Board, this is your opportunity to ask clarifying questions.
It's for STR. So the collaborative spaces.
Yes.
So in phase 2, or in option 2, it would be like 75% of the collaborative spaces is 14.5 million versus the 100% is 19. Okay, so is that really, I mean, that's money that we could use someplace else, right? We can move that money around and only do maybe 50% of the collaborative spaces.
Correct. Yeah, kind of in keeping with the structure that we used here to divide it by percentage instead of each specific line item, you really get bogged down quickly. So yeah, I think that's the beauty of this system. You can kind of swap and exchange places. Again, I think the collaborative space is something the campus is really in arrears on. It is very useful, but I think 25% of collaborative space would be significantly useful in comparison to what you have today. So you have those choices to redisperse those monies.
And then that could be used towards classrooms or, or towards stormwater.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And, just something to keep in mind too, since this is a public forum, is this has been a process that the board and our district has been pursuing for roughly the past 8 months, year. And so we don't take this lightly. We did have a chance to ask questions and had comments to talk about this in a little bit of detail. But also, to be fair, I'd like to encourage our board here to ask a few questions, if you have any.
So the public can hear.
Yes, absolutely. It's very important, I think, that it's known that this is not just one moment that we've done this. We've been doing this for a very long time to deliberate and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the general public here in the community.
So are the numbers pretty on point, like as far as accuracy, that 14 million for that would,
We believe so. We put a lot of effort into that, and again, in predicting the future, we did put in escalation for inflation. Certainly, that's more challenging today than it was yesterday, but we have accommodated for that. So I think this is a good, honest effort at a realistic cost for our area at this time.
How difficult was that, given the fact that, recently everything has gone up in price so significantly due to COVID? So how were you able to
really
give us
difficult
a quality price here?
And again, predicting the future is challenging in any discipline, and ours is no different. And it's interesting to think that in reality, Even if you could build it all today, I would probably recommend you not, because I think we will get stabilization in the markets that will return better value later. So we use historical data for that. Certainly it has been above historical data recently, and we've accommodated that into some degree, but it's changing. Even today, we got an update from a service that not only captured what has happened, but what they expect to happen, and some outlooking. And you could see the cliff out in the future, but at least there was a cliff out in the future where it does return to some degree of normalcy. It is interesting projects we have going on now. The supply chain issues are very significant. I mean, there's just no question about it. And I'm really optimistic it's going to improve. But accommodating future inflation is very challenging.
Along the lines of what you just said, if we do go for a June referendum and we pass, how soon will we see the funds? How long will the planning take? How long before we start the work? Because that all plays into your
Correct.
Your costs and your timelines. Can we just get a rough estimate to help us put our
I'll
arms
talk
around
about
this?
planning first, and then we'll double back
Okay.
on the bonds. Planning, would start to work right away, but in a complication of, traditionally spring referendum is much earlier in the year. This year it's so late at the end of June. So it really makes it virtually impossible to do any meaningful construction in the summer of the year. And there's the permit process. The dead minimum for stormwater permits is a 120-day permit window.
Oh.
It's just the way it is. I don't have to like it. That's the way it is. So if that process built in, it does get us well into the winter where we really can't do outside construction. But we could do some limited inside work. But for the most part, it would cycle to really active work on site in the spring, and then obviously in the summer of '23, we'd start the renovation. At a project this scale, you certainly can't do it all in one summer. I'd estimate probably at least 3 summers, and just to give you a sense of scale, and to keep the school going and to keep the school going safely for students and staff, we'd envision some of the additions starting early spring of '23, because that can be outside and away from the students, and build those spaces to give some ability to flex those spaces in early and allow people to go back in and work at the spaces that vacated. So it's a little bit of 3-dimensional chess there, but it would start really in earnest with spring almost a year from now.
Nothing happens fast.
Very true.
Would you estimate it's about a 3-year process then?
Approximately.
Yeah.
I think it would probably, some portions would be beyond that, but I think that's probably a reasonable expectation.
Okay.
Thank you.
In terms of the financing timing, upon passage of the referendum, the district has 5 years to issue all the bonds. And what would make sense and what I would recommend is that we don't issue the bonds until the money is actually needed, so it would be more related to when the bills start coming in, so the district doesn't incur interest costs sooner than it needs to.
Okay. On the bond, and I asked this earlier, you said this affects all taxing bodies? So like
Yes.
the plants around us and, the commercial?
Correct. Yeah, the illustration was just for a median homeowner. So if your home is less, it would cost less. If your home was more, it costs more. And then obviously the business and commercial industrial properties would pay their share as well.
Okay.
Also, there's a median home value that was calculated was 229, right? 229,000.
229 was the U.S.
So,
Census median home value.
yeah, that's the baseline that we're using as well. So.
The building, you mentioned about stormwater earlier with the options. This site currently, from what I've witnessed and seen, has a drainage, doesn't handle stormwater well already. And part of the building gets water in it because of that. Does any of the options address, or how do we protect
Yeah,
the
for everyone
investment
else's
that we're
benefit,
asking for?
historically, there's been some water infiltration on the doors on the west side of the site when you really get a rainy event. And certainly there's more site flooding on the northeast corner for sure. I think that for the purposes of the options, we've kind of delineated the big picture items. there's certainly a lot of choices to be made within all this. I agree with your point that, it makes prudent sense. We kind of subscribe to the theory of warm, dry, and standing. And dry not only refers to leaky roofs, it certainly is just as applicable to groundwater.
The water running in the doors.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Or snow.
So I think it'd be prudent to include that into that. That itself probably isn't a huge project, but does require to go through the permit process just as if we were doing an addition. It's a very highly regulated environment, but I think it merits serious consideration.
Yeah, so to Carrie's point, protecting the investment is, I think, very prudent, right? And then also, I want to mention John, too, who mentioned that we do have a existing water problem here, so that's something that we'll definitely need to focus on.
Yeah, it's not only the water running in the doors, like I said, but the water that stands and freezes and people walk over there and, yeah, I mean, there's safety.
Yeah,
major
very
safety
dynamic
issues.
site. You have a
Yes.
lot of
Very dynamic.
differing, some are related issues, some are independent. It's
Yeah.
pretty challenging.
I have one other question. Based on, we have 5 years to issue the bonds. Does that mean the taxpayers will incur the increase in taxes as the bonds are issued, or does it happen all at once and goes into like a bank account for us to draw down? That I am not clear on.
Sure, so there'll be no impact to the taxpayers until the bonds are issued.
Okay, so this will be a gradual increase potentially over 5 years and not a sudden one all at once based on everything we've discussed here. Just at the end of the 5 years or at the issuing of all the bonds, then that dollar figure will truly be seen. So that it isn't something we're going to hit people with the day after it passes. It's going to be incremental, spread out as needed as we do work, as permits are approved and timing allows. So this isn't a big one-time whack, which makes me feel a little bit better as a taxpayer. And that's actually nice to hear. I didn't even catch that until just now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
more than likely, the bonds will be issued in chunks as the money's needed for the construction project, but it'll be spread out to the taxpayers and probably won't start hitting the tax rolls for probably two to 3 years.
That's great. Thank you.
Real quick, Rob, to add to that question, how does that affect the length of the bond? And how does that play out?
Well, the intent would be to issue the bond, to have the ability to issue the bonds over a 25-year period. So, and then that'll be decisions, again, that's the intent right now, but the Board of Education, at the time of the issuance, will be reviewing different scenarios to see how they want to structure the debt.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, Phase 4, how does that look like, Colin?
All right, so let's talk about what the future looks like. At this next, we can go to the next slide. One more, there we go. So what we'll be working with all the experts and everyone you've heard from today will be to finalize what this plan looks like and the ballot question, so making sure we finalize that language with legal, and then identifying the appropriate election to move forward in, and then what our team will do is develop the messaging that explains how we got here, what's included in this, so what the public can expect, and then we'll have another meeting of our community committee, which is already scheduled for March 10th. And then as we talked about, you all would vote at your next board meeting to put that ballot question on the ballot, and then we would work to get that information out to the public. So that's what the next steps would look like here as part of Phase 4, now that we've completed Phase 3.
Okay. Thank you, Wes, STR, and Rob Rossi. Next is our equity report.
Hello everyone, my name is Mike Barago and this is your equity report. First and foremost, I hope that the new year is off to a great start for all of you. Since we didn't have a January report, we will highlight information for both January and February. Our January and February commemorative observances and holidays are the following. January 17th was Martin Luther King Day. February 1st was Lunar New Year. The entire month of February is Black History Month. And on February 25th, we have the Gay Straight Alliance Day for Racial Justice. During our January 3rd Institute Day, we had a number of teachers, students, admins, and counselors who provided professional learning opportunities for our staff. Some highlights from that day included Brave, our GSA group here at Fenton High School, discussed gender identity. This was led by Ms. Mascarello and one of our student members. The Podcast Club discussed topics about anti-racism in education. The discussion was led by Ms. Ragendran, Ms. Toe, and Mr. Mitchell. A microaggression student panel discussion where students participated and did an amazing job providing our staff with insights about their own experiences when it comes to microaggression in school. Mr. Mato and Mr. Castro also led restorative practices discussions. We also had DACA and undocumented student updates from Mr. Cano and Ms. Georgakis. EBR discussions also were led by Ms. Papanikolaou, and we had trauma-informed meeting discussion led by Ms. Connor and Mr. Jurger. Thank you to all those that helped out lead the discussions. On January 31st, our instructional coaches led the 4th session of our Grading for Equity book study. The session focused on developing bias-resistant grading as well as valuing student knowledge as a base for their grades and minimizing, if not eliminating, the impact of environment and behavior. I had a chance to join Ms. Cushing and Ms. Norris's cohort where great and thought-provoking conversation took place. Big shout out to our teacher leaders for doing a great job facilitating the conversation. Our Equal Opportunity Schools, aka EOS committee, has hosted some fantastic events. In January, they hosted one of the most successful AP Rush virtually. AP teachers made themselves available through Google Meet for students who were interested in learning more about their AP courses, and the showing was greater than ever. On February 1st, the committee hosted a parent series event led by AP teachers, students, and parents who have had students take AP. The purpose of the event was to provide parents with information about what AP is all about and why it's a great opportunity for students to take. And just to highlight our whys, the EOS committee is committed to increasing student exposure to AP courses. The rigor and college-level experience that the courses offer not only increase students' likelihood of success in college, but that they graduate within the first 4 years. Big shout out to our committee leader, Ms. Ward, and all the members for their amazing efforts. At the end of the first semester, we conducted our initial equity self-audit with our staff. The data we collected was reviewed by a professional learning strand and used as a baseline for developing professional learning opportunities. For the month of February, the Strand has created weekly opportunities for staff to learn more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. On February 10th, the Family and Community as Agency Strand held their very first Equity Advisory Committee meeting at Deer Grove Leisure Center. The goal of the meeting was to inform parents and the community members about Fenton's Equity Action Plan, as well as develop partnership with them through the formation of an advisory committee. The meeting was a great success where we had members from Padres Unidos, Polish Parents Group, Booster Club, and PTO attend the event. We also had representatives from Bensonville School District 2 attend. As noted in our commemorative observances and holidays, this month is Black History Month. Our Black Student Union and the Diversity Committee have put together events throughout the month to celebrate and recognize Black excellence from both history and the present. Here are some of the planned events. Every day during announcements, we recognize Black excellence from leaders in a variety of disciplines, including science, technology, engineering, math, business, arts, history, and those in communities such as LGBTQ+. Mr. Escobedo and Kaleidoscope will host 2 open mic events themed around Black history. We partnered with our film club to show movies highlighting Black excellence and Black experience every Wednesday after school this month. 1800s versus 2020 virtual play screening will be scheduled in the next couple of weeks. The premise of the play is if slaves from the 1800s could talk to Black Americans in the 2020s, what would the conversation be like? Our BSU students would like to host Name That Tune game with prizes and soul food takeover during lunch periods. We're excited for that. Lastly, our chemistry teachers and students led by Ms. Lamy and Mr. Lynch set up a Black History periodic table. Check out the images. They did a great job. More importantly, we want to emphasize that Black history and recognizing Black excellence is not just for the month of February. Instead, it's for every day. That wraps it up for this report. Until next time, my name is Mike Barago. Take care and be good to yourself.
Okay. I'll jump into college credit opportunities here at Fenton. We just wanted to briefly talk about early college credit. We all know it's very important and not only saves our students money and saves them time in the long run and helps them become more prepared for when they do enter a college setting, but they're more likely to complete their experience through graduation when they actually do go to college. So I have some important efforts and developments to share in this area, so you have an understanding of what we're doing here at Fenton. I think before I jump into specifics about Fenton, I want to clarify the general sources of early college credit that are available. So there's dual credit, dual enrollment, and advanced placement. They're all a little different. So I just wanted to kind of brief you on those subtle differences because trying to navigate this world of working with the universities, some of them really prefer certain types of options, and we're trying to pursue certain types of options. So in a dual credit scenario, those courses are taught by high school teachers that are credentialed by the university. So the university has to say yes, they have a master's degree in that content area, they can teach our course for us. So students stay on campus, our teachers teach them.
I mean, stay on high school.
Yeah, they stay on campus here at Fenton. Our teachers teach them. They're awarded the university credit, and they're awarded a credit from us. We use their curriculum for the most part, or at least strongly aligned to their curriculum. Then there's dual enrollment. In dual enrollment, the courses are taught by the college or university professors, either on their college campus or remotely. Our students become a registered student of that university or college, and they're a registered student of the high school. So they're dually enrolled or dually registered. The credit is awarded by the college or university, and they don't care what we do with the rest of it. It's up to us whether we want to give them that credit or not. The curriculum is developed and delivered by the college or university. The third way is through advanced placement, which we've heard a lot about here at Fenton because we do that really well, right? We have about 24 courses that we provide in this area. These are taught by high school teachers that are trained by the college board, not any specific university, but by the organization itself. Students are registered at the high school, not registered at any college in particular, and the credit is awarded based on the college choices they make and whether that college chooses to award them credit based on how they performed on an exam. The curriculum is adopted from the college board. So those are the three general types of college credit.
With the dual enrollment, I see they're registered at the college. Is that where the classes take place?
For dual enrollment, it's either on campus at the college or remotely.
Is transportation, how does that work?
Yeah,
for
we
the
don't,
students?
these are just general opportunities. We don't actually have a dual enrollment opportunity where students go to a college campus at this time. But in the case that we did, we would likely provide the transportation, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about what we're doing at Fenton. I just wanted to give that brief overview because it's nice to get some definitions out of the way. So we work with a variety of partners. Of course, we pursue a partnership with the College of DuPage, right? They're our community college. We seek dual credit with them in a variety of areas. Right now, where we're doing, focusing much of our effort is in the CTE areas, such as culinary and education, and some of those other career and technical education fields. We also have been working with the College of DuPage, and this is a little sidebar-ish, but the transition courses. So sometimes at the community college, they'll look at students and say, based on your test scores, you have to take these remedial courses, and you're not going to get any credit for them. And in some community colleges, not so much at COD as much as maybe some others, you might have to take 2 or 3 non-credit bearing courses before you can even get a college credit in that area. So there was a law passed in 2016 called the Power Act, and it said, you know what, colleges, you have to do something with the high schools. So when a student graduates, they can go into college credit bearing courses. So we've been doing that with COG in the math area for the last couple of years, and Fenton was at the heart of a pilot for English last year. So we're hoping to see some pieces solidify in that area in the realm of English as well. Another university we've just started developing a stronger relationship with is Elmhurst University. They have been in discussion with us about dual credit for Calc 3. If some of you might recall, we just started offering Calc 3 this year, and we were partnering with the University of Illinois in a dual enrollment situation. It was okay. We got feedback along the way. We feel like a transition to a different program might be beneficial to our students at Fenton.
So it wasn't okay?
It was okay. But we feel like a transition would be good overall.
So maybe adequate's the better word?
Yes.
It was adequate,
Yeah.
but not good. Okay, got it.
It may have had its pros and cons.
Got it.
Okay. So.
Trying to be diplomatic.
Understood. I'm not.
So we feel pretty promised by the relationship that we can establish with Elmhurst University. What they do differently in Calc 3, just to be more specific, is they actually have like a live teacher that will teach it instead of like email correspondence, and sometimes U of I would Zoom. But the biggest piece is University of Illinois used this special coding that students had to learn like a coding language before they could answer questions, whereas in Elmhurst, they can just answer the questions. So we're excited about that. We will have to sign an MOU with them, and we will have to modify our course catalog just a bit, because right now it says we partner with U of I, and we're gonna make that change and be looking to do that at an upcoming board meeting. They also want to potentially work with us on dual enrollment in freshman college algebra, freshman college English 1, in a dual enrollment capacity. So they still want their teachers teaching it. They're not looking to credential our teachers to teach their courses, whereas COG is sometimes willing to do that and allow our teachers to teach in a dual credit. We also have the advanced placement, where we have 24 different classes, and based on the exam results, our students earn many, many credits. And then we have the Technology Center of DuPage, and right now, that center does work with COG, and last year, 24 of our students earned approximately 217 early college credit.
That's great.
Yep. So those are our primary partners right now in this work, and we continue to look to see how we can grow these opportunities for students. And as it evolves, I'll continue to update you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sorry, it's hard to talk.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
no, this is wonderful, you know, as far as the opportunity, especially with our status of our school as a Title I school, to have the opportunity to earn these credits. And I just want to thank, you know, College DuPage and Elmhurst University publicly for partnering with us in that way, so.
Just like to reiterate too, next month, we'll bring the MOU, our collaboration with Elmhurst, to the board to approve.
I'm sorry, yes, we'll have to have
So
an MOU.
is College English 1, is that like our English 4? Or
No, it'd be
AP
their
English?
college level freshman course.
Oh, okay.
And-
English 101.
Mhm.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Just real quick, lunch period exploration, we're always trying to find more space for our students, whether it's prior to COVID or currently here. We know it's crowded over there in our cafeteria. We are just exploring the idea of a fourth period lunch. As you guys know, we are piloting a open lunch for our seniors. I think it's going well. We wish they would take more advantage of it, but it is what it is. So we're exploring this, a fourth period lunch, perhaps seventh period, just to create more space for next year. So I'll keep you posted in regards to that.
Question.
Yes,
How long are lunch periods?
45 minutes.
What about having two, I mean, have four, but in a shorter amount of time and then do study hall? You know, like just move them out.
A lot of
half an
block
hour.
schedule does that, but what it does, Patty, is that it plays with our traditional 1 through 8 program. So now, if an individual, if you split a lunch in half, let's say 20 minutes, right? 23 minutes, and you're creating more slots and opportunities, I guess, for lack of a better word, for that students to attend that period. It's very tricky and difficult to manage. And part of the reason too, as well as you know, is where do we put them if we split them, right? If we have 350 students in a lunchroom, let's say you want to split it in half, where would that 150 go while the other 150 is eating lunch? We've looked at that.
For a study hall or someplace, or just?
Well, we have study halls throughout the day. We do not want to overpopulate our study halls. What a fourth period lunch would do is just really to create more space for individual. It won't
Do we
disrupt.
really need more space? I mean, like COVID's going.
It's 45 minutes in a tight space is tough for our kids. It really is, and you know, if you welcome to come here any day and observe them, and I know some of you guys have done that. It's just really tight during COVID or prior to COVID. So we're looking at that space. What a simple solution is, a fourth period lunch, it doesn't complicate the schedules that we do have, our master schedules. So it's just, hey, look, there's more opportunities. Hey, look, you take the 1,500 students we have and divide it by 4, or something to that effect. So we're looking at that. We're looking at the pros and cons. Just wanted to put that on your radars. That could and could not happen, but we're just exploring everything, preparing for next year. This is the time to start prepping for next year.
What time would a seventh period?
Seventh period would start at 1:40.
Oh, okay.
1:40. There was a question in regards to, hey, look, a lot of our...
Not eating lunch until 1:40?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our solution would be a snack table,
Yeah.
possibly during bison time where there's an apple. But some folks might like that because they would stay for an extracurricular or an athletic event. They might rather prefer a seventh period lunch, so they're refreshed. And there's also opportunity if you got an early release, eighth period for seniors who have all their credits already, they could take off right after sixth period. So there's a lot of play there. So we're just exploring it right now. I just want to put that on your radar. Like anything else, you guys don't like surprises, we don't like surprises as well.
One other question. Approximately how many students are taking advantage of the lunch pilot? Is it?
I would say about 60.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
out of
maybe
about
when it
350.
gets warmer, they'll.
I hope so. I hope so.
Would you go away from, would you be adding a period to the end if you're going with a seventh period lunch?
Would we be adding a period? No, it would be an opportunity for students to have a seventh period lunch. We would not add an extra period. So it would, instead of an 8 period day, it would not be a 9th period day. It's just seventh period. Some students have lunch, some students don't. Again, creating space. Next slide, please. Just a heads up, summer school day starts June 13th, ends July 25th.
What are we going to do with polling place then?
Question is, what are we going to do with a polling place? We have been selected, and we have agreed that Fenton High School will be a polling place on June 28th for the primary election. The location for the polling will be in the field house. So it's really separated and isolated from our summer school students. Summer school ends at approximately 12 o'clock. So we should have enough individuals in the building to keep the two entities separated. We will have a security guard on both hallways. And the doors will be closed, and folks who are voting know not to enter the building in that direction. So as you know, the field house is in the back over there. They'll park there, vote, leave.
So they'll enter.
Correct, on the side, not through door 1.
Is there any, what's the benefit of having the polling place here? I'm just, you said you were selected. I'm just.
Here's what happened. usually the primary is in March, okay, and it's usually at the golf course. This year was a special year, summer of 2022, and the primary was scheduled in June. So the golf course basically said, we cannot hold it because that's the prime time for golfing. So they were looking for places within the Bensonville area, and usually schools, and Fenton had the facilities for it. And quite frankly, you know, we know in Bensonville, Fenton is the crossroad of the community. Everyone kind of knows where that is. Next slide. COVID quick updates here.
Excuse me, James.
Yes.
And it'll just be for this one election, right? It will only be one.
That's a great question, Juliet. Yes, it's just for this one. I believe after this year, it'll go back to March. Good question. COVID updates real quick. Trend is going down. All age levels here. This is in DuPage. All the slides I'll be showing is DuPage and Fenton. That's a great trend to have. Here's another trend in regards to the age group, the pediatrics from 0 to 4, 5 to 14, and 16 to 19. Headed that way. COVID cases were, what is this one? I cannot read it. I'm sorry.
Our residents.
What is it, by residents?
Yes.
Yes, once again, it's on its way down. Really not much to report there. COVID cases by hospitalization, again going down. All the trends are in the right direction. Our Fenton numbers, you see that surge there in January 17th to 14th, and it's still continue to matriculate downwards. Thank you, Jose and Sam, for really keeping an eye on that and continuing with our mitigation efforts. And real quickly, what this one is about here is I just wanted to remind the board or inform the board where we're at, especially with all the different mitigations, the ruling. I just want to spend just 2 or 3 minutes to regroup, to summarize where we're at currently as of today. So the federal mitigation in place to this point, as we know, public transportation, which includes our bus, is run federally. The CDC, this includes our school buses and all school transportation, still requires masking, okay? That's at the federal level. It gets more interesting at the state level. Next slide, please. As you know, on February 4th, a temporary restraining order was issued by a lower court preventing the state from placing masking mandates for district named in the lawsuit. Fenton was not named in that lawsuit, and the class action was not granted. Basically, we're not bounded to that suit. Then, on that, I think the next day, the Illinois State Attorney filed an appeal to the 4th District Appellate Court. So it's a higher court in Springfield on February 4th. The appellate court is scheduled to make a ruling within 2 weeks when it was filed, which could happen at the end of this week. I'm hoping tomorrow, I'm hoping Friday. Okay. Then yesterday evening, JCAR, let me just remember the acronym, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, yesterday temporarily suspended the emergency mask rules for schools. Okay. So what did the appellate court do after yesterday? The appellate court asked JCAR to submit any briefs they had by 1 p.m. today. We are anticipating the appellate court would make a ruling soon, if not tomorrow or Friday, and we are waiting on that ruling, okay? Also, we are preparing. We know that mask option is probably around the corner, okay? We are prepared to that. We are talking to individuals in our building. Sam has done a great job with a communication effort, and we are preparing for that ruling from the appellate court to happen. I think it could go either 2 ways, right? Right? So let's wait for that ruling. It could be, hey, look, the mask mandate is still applicable, or it could be like the lower courts. You know, it's null and void. We're ready to act either way. Right now,
what's keeping us from going mask optional now?
what is preventing us from going? We're waiting for the appellate court to rule.
Why do we have to wait for them?
Because we are, right now, we're not named on the suit there, so we are still in that mask mandate. Now with,
That's not what my understanding of it, but, I mean, you know better because you've been speaking illegal, but,
right.
yeah, my understanding is that it incorporated everyone.
You can look at it that way, and that's how some school districts have interpreted it, and some other public individuals have interpreted. We have spoken to legal right now. We're not legally bounded by that ruling at the lower court. What Patty, what I'm asking all the board is to wait for this appellate court to make that ruling, this whether it's tomorrow or on Friday, to see where we're at. Now, with that said, the board can also decide in regards to if the ruling is, let's say, a mask up, right, or still the mask out mandate is still in play. The board could make a decision in regards to, hey, look, we would like to go mask option.
I think we should vote on that. I think we should go mask optional and vote on that tonight.
I highly would recommend it. That's a great, that's an opinion there. If, I think we should wait for the appellate court. That would be my recommendation to the board.
I want to just say this too. I understand. I think I can speak for everyone here, plus our community. Who likes masks? Who likes to wear them? No one. Zero. No one does. Everybody wants to go back to normal, whatever normal is now, right? We know that. And I would just say this. Let's be very careful and cautious and wait for things to play out. Very likely we're going to have an answer within a week of this.
And things are playing out though, Kit. I disagree. I mean, the mask, you know, if you follow the science, unless you're wearing an N95 with a filter on it, masks don't do anything for the virus, okay? They're not effective. Our numbers have dropped off. I think if somebody wants to wear a mask, if they feel more comfortable doing that, let them wear a mask. I drive 2 little kids to school every morning, twins. They've gone mask optional at their school. One wears a mask, the other one doesn't. One feels more comfortable wearing it, the other one doesn't. So it's let those who feel like they want to protect themselves, if they think that the mask does that, then let them wear that. But I don't think you should hold everybody else hostage.
In my opinion, it's not a matter of holding someone hostage. It is, it's a public health issue, and I'm in a public setting, and my concern should not solely be about my own comfortability, but the environment that I'm in. And I don't care for this mask. It irritates the heck out of me. However, I'm not at home. I'm in a public setting. And it should be more than just about me and my comfortability. I'm being considerate of my environment, people in my environment. And in my opinion, it's an issue of that. It's a consideration that I'm not on an island by myself. And it's shown that whether I'm showing symptoms or not, if I have it, I'm spreading it. That's just true. And I see the mask, the potential of if it's one way or the other, we'll address it at that time, but the mask and the sanitizer, it's about prevention.
So James, can I just ask you a question? Have you spoken to legal, and what was their recommendation? And could you talk to us a little bit about if they gave you any sort of reason as to why maybe we should wait the day or two until this ruling comes down?
Right. That's a great question. Before I answer that question, just really, we believe, we meaning the administration, personally myself, that the layered mitigation, which we have been endorsing and working on diligently day in and day out, as well as the entire staff, we believe for that to work. to be back in school, to be in person, to be able to have extracurricular, to be in the halls and in the classroom. I've repeatedly spoke to our legal at least twice this week. The most prudent thing he said was to wait until the appellate court because he could go either both ways. The reason why he said is to wait if it really depends. If it's mask on, it would, and let's say we decide to go mask optional, it's going to be very, very difficult for us to get everyone back to, hey, look, it's mask on. Okay, here's where it stands. Here's where the law is. This is the appellate court. This is the law of the land. It's going to be very hard. There's a lot of analogy in regards to letting the toothpaste out of the tube. That's going to be a reality here. That's the main reason there. Then he also said, if it's mask optional, act on it immediately.
This is a very difficult and passionate subject. And you can go on the internet and you can do research and you could even read professional journals that contradict each other regularly. So far, we as a board and as a school district have followed the recommendation of the state and the county to protect us legally, and because that's the only advice we can get. We're a school board. Personal feelings aside, I have my opinions, I have my training, I have my background. I also understand that we have to lead by example. And we don't always agree with the laws. We don't like seatbelts, we don't like helmets, we don't like masks, we don't like this, we don't like that. We're a society of laws and regulations. I'm not particularly fond of how our governor went about this. I think it could have been done better. But the State Board of Education and the County Board of Education have made a determination. We followed their determination until now. I have a feeling we're within about a week or a week and a half of having a ruling. We are eventually going to be going optional. There's no way around it. It's going to happen. The numbers are showing that. We followed this course and we've been prudent in doing so. As much as I'd like to say tonight, let's do it, I'd like to hear what the courts say. Also, it is not on our agenda. We cannot vote on things that are not on our agenda, otherwise we're violating other state statutes. Now, if we want to wait for the ruling and call a special meeting, I am very happy to have a debate on this and to have a vote on this. And if 4 members say to do one thing, so be it. But honestly, it's a moot point. This is not on our agenda. Cannot act on this without this being on our agenda. And we're going to have a direction here in a couple of days. I'd like to see where it goes, and then we could get our opinions to the president, and if we want to call a special meeting, if we need to take specific action, if we want to go against that recommendation, I'm in favor of it. And let's have a meeting, and let's have a debate, and let's have a vote. But until then, I feel this is a moot point. This isn't even an agenda item.
That is true. But if it comes down and it is mask off, it's mask off. I mean, we don't even have to do anything.
Right,
Correct?
it's mask
It's
option.
just done.
It's mask option. If the appellate court says, hey, it's mask option, it's mask option. We comply to it. Like
We're following the recommendations as we have done all along, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I'd like to see us let this play out, and if it doesn't come out as mask optional, and enough of us feel that we should have a vote and go against that, then let's call a special meeting, let's address that specific topic, let's make it an agenda item, and let's vote on it and see where the 7 of us feel. If 4 of us feel that way, 4 of us feel that way. We're 1 of 7. 4 wins. It's that simple.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, John.
Question. Just real quick, next one right there. Kid is we have 4 FOIAs we received this month. First one is from ABC7 Chicago in regards to remote learning. It's request to find out what remote tech equipment was returned, damaged, or missing from the 2021 school year. The answer would be none. Then B is the Illinois Retired Teacher Association for 2022. Basically, they would like to know the individuals that are retiring, the number of individuals that are retiring from Fenton. Number C is smart procurement. This is basically in regards to the staff name, department, phone extension, and email address requests shared at the staff directory on our website. Is that accurate, Mary Timmons?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That has been resolved. And lastly, from SEIU Local 73, a list of SEIU members with hire date and email address. This was also provided. That's the end of the report.
Okay, thank you. And next would be going through the consent agenda, starting with financials. And do we have any questions? Okay.
I do have a question, just a clarification question about the COVID leave MOU. And I assume it does follow the same as the FEA, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and I know I asked this in an email, but, so just to clarify, so if somebody is able to do their job at home, they get regular pay, but they're on leave. Is that right?
Right. I mean, maybe for instance, would be like a secretary, okay? So a secretary then that's eligible for the leave would then work as a secretary from home, and they get the COVID leave day.
Okay, do you get the COVID leave pay instead of their regular pay?
No, it's their regular pay.
Oh.
It's just, it has to do with, are you taking a sick day? You know, like typically, if you're at home, like let's just say you've got a stomach ache and you're at home, you take a sick day, you don't work from home. What we're saying here is with the COVID leave, this is a special situation, and someone could be at home and work and still benefit the organization. So that's the concept behind that.
So, now my understanding is this is only for vaccinated individuals?
Correct.
Okay, and the reason for that is?
Similar to what I said with FEA is that the other examples we have seen, that's how it has been, and then it was agreed upon by both sides.
So then there's, in my humble opinion, I think there's discrimination going on against those who are unvaccinated.
This COVID leave, is there a time period or clock put on this?
The end of the school year is the clock. So it goes from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. So all they do, they submit the form.
It'll be
along
revisited every year?
I'm sorry?
Would it be revisited?
No, sir. No,
it'd
it'd just be for this school year. Just for this school year. And then depending on what happens next school year, if they wanted to reintroduce this conversation, we would start the, conversations over again, but it's just for this school year. Yeah, just like the teachers. This is modeled exactly off what we did with the teachers. The only difference is the security guards, because they can't work from home, they got a smaller number of days allotted.
And this was negotiated by their union?
Yes, sir.
This is a letter initiated by their union representing their members on what they wish?
Correct. Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear. And we agreed to it, and there's no financial impact?
Right.
Or minimal?
Sick, instead of having sick days.
Sick.
But they're working from home, so it benefits us.
Right, no, absolutely, okay. They're gonna get paid either way.
Correct.
They're either gonna get paid to lay on the couch and watch TV, or they're gonna sit behind their computer and coach
Right.
on their couch and get paid. No different than a lot of other people who work from home from their office.
So if someone is unvaccinated but they can still work from home, then they don't get leave, or they have to use sick time?
An unvaccinated person is not eligible for the COVID leave, so then if they're sick at home, then they're sick at home.
But what if they're not sick and they can work from home?
We don't have arrangements where someone is just sick and therefore they just work from home. This is a special circumstance around COVID. That's a broader discussion, which we haven't entertained, would be, in general, if someone is sick and unable to come in, would you then allow them to work from home? We're not ready for that conversation. That opens up.
But don't you have that in there?
Yeah, that's part of the
That's part of
MOU.
the right?
I'm talking about generally speaking.
Oh,
Let's say, again, someone has a stomach ache and they're not able to come in. We're not gonna get into a realm where someone is homesick and they're in another, not COVID related, and able to work from home, and now we're gonna say, okay, you're gonna work from home rather than
come in.
taking a sick day, right? It's this very, very specific exposure for the district related to,
COVID,
right.
got it. So someone is home with COVID,
Okay.
but can work, but they're unvaccinated, they don't get that same.
They're not eligible for the COVID leave.
I see that as someone, like, for instance, a insurance company. When you take the extra precaution to do something, like you get a smoke detector or a fire alarm system in your house, you get a credit. I mean, that's how I see that's how it was. Was it used to encourage people to be vaccinated, or just a benefit for them to be, you know, that's how I see it, as it was a benefit for those who took the extra precaution or to be vaccinated. Is that what it, you know? And you said it was agreed by both sides, so.
Right.
I mean, that's really what we come down to. This is what their union negotiated for. And we agreed to it. There's no cost to us.
They basically asked for that, right?
I think this is something that they need to fight out within the union, that this isn't our place. As someone who's been on both sides of that coin and fought the fight on both sides. I think we're diving in deeper than we need to.
It's an MOU that we're agreeing on.
Correct. They brought this MOU to us. We didn't bring this to them. They initiated this MOU, and this is the language they brought to us representing their members. I don't feel it's our place to go back and say, well, we're going to give you more, because how does that help our bargaining position when we negotiate the contract with the next time? This is what their members agreed to. They brought it to us. We can agree to it. I think we're getting into this deeper than we have to. We're just agreeing to something that their members offered because it benefits both parties. I don't think there's been a contract out there where I like every single page of it.
The dilemma too is that we've already agreed to it with FEA.
Correct.
Any other questions with the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I will make that motion.
Can I get a second? Okay, thank you. May I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Rego?
Yes.
Figueroa?
Yes.
Hayden?
Yes.
Jalowick?
No,
Lewis?
Yes.
Redzinski?
Yes.
Tinkle Pong?
Yes. And motion passed. Let's get to the discussion items with the teacher's retirement system, supplemental savings plan resolution.
So that is, we have a resolution before you tonight to act on, or we hope you can act on it. This began in 2018. The Illinois legislature amended the Illinois pension code to add a requirement that the teacher's retirement system provide an optional deferred contribution benefit to all eligible members of TRS beginning in 2021. Last year, the code was further amended to clarify that the TRS-covered employers, as the school district, must participate in the SSP, the Supplemental Savings Plan, through TRS. So the legislature dictated it to the TRS. TRS is then imposing it on us. Probably not the right word, but requiring school districts to offer a 457 plan, which is basically similar to a 401k in the private sector, just a tax-deferred savings program. In addition, they're also, this hasn't begun yet, but we're told it will begin when they get this launched, and it's been delayed a number of times due to some issues on their end with TRS launching this thing across the state. So it's a pretty significant program to set up. But this change, I think it was all employees at one time, but just new employees now will be automatically enrolled. So if you don't want to participate, you'll have to opt out of the program. So that's another requirement of the program. So we have to offer it through payroll deduction, obviously. And in order to make that happen, the board has to act on the resolution in order to be full and compliant participants with this program. So the other thing, we're a little, there's been some pushback from school administrators across the state on this because now we offer these programs. We don't offer a 457, but we offer a 403B, and we offer both a traditional plan and a Roth one plan. And we have total control over it. We use a third-party administrator to ensure that we're in compliance, whatever people are contributing, or if they take out a loan, or all that requirements are monitored by us, and we hire someone to do that. And with this particular program, that management responsibility, liability, I should say management responsibility is not ours, it's on the state, and they're using FOIA to administer that on their behalf. However, the liability still falls on us. So that's been kind of a sticking point with schools across the state, particularly in Northern Illinois, and they've been lobbying for some changes with this program. We've pushed it as far as we can go. Some school districts adopted this months ago. We waited as long as we could, along with many of my fellow colleagues, to see if there was going to be any further changes, but we're kind of at the end of our rope. And I don't mean to make it sound like this is a tragic program, but
should we not retire?
It is it is a little frustrating that they're kind of demanding this program, but yet not really letting you control it. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at with this whole 457 plan. So once the board acts on the resolution, there's additional paperwork that we'll have to submit to the TRS to begin the program. But if this all goes the way it is, unless TRS delays something further, staff could enroll as early as March. As I said, we offer a 403B now, both a Roth and a traditional plan. We're considering offering our own 457 plan where we would have control over it. I think that kind of makes sense. I talked to Mr. Antango about that as well. It wouldn't cost us any additional money, and it would be another option for our staff. So you could contribute the max to the 457, you could contribute the max to the 403B, and shelter even more money. There hasn't been huge demand for that, but there may be now that this program is out there. So I probably gave you way more information than you wanted to hear on this, but in any event, there is a resolution we would ask the board to consider tonight to act on.
So is the SSP the same as the 457B, or is it?
It is the 457.
It is the
yeah.
457.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have control over that, but we don't have control over the SSP.
Correct. Yes.
So can we offer one or the other, or can we just offer the 457?
Well, right now we don't have a 457. The 457 plan would be the SSP.
Okay.
What we would propose is to offer our own 457 to kind of compete with this, almost, you could say.
Sure, sure.
Wait,
and it would be much easier for people to enroll or change or that type of thing.
If it's local and.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this would be in addition to what we already offer, 403B, the Roth account, and then also the 457.
Yes.
Okay. The 457 is a defined benefit plan, basically, right?
That is correct.
So
yes.
it's a contributory from us, from the district.
We don't know. We don't make any. There's no employer contribution. It's just the
Okay, got it. So it's a voluntary percentage-wise to the TRS.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So right now, my understanding when I was reading was that the SSP was like, there's an opt-in option right now, right? But for new employees, they have to opt out.
Right now, it's opt-in for everybody,
everybody
because they've not flushed this out with the automatic enrollment for the new folks, but that is coming, we're told, by the summer.
Okay.
So we'll when we hire new staff, we will certainly inform them of, you're now an enrollee of TRS, So, and then here's how if you want to change that, we can guide them through that.
We'll do our due diligence in properly educating them to their options.
Yeah.
See, I can be politically correct.
Well said, yes.
So just to be clear, we're voting on introducing the TRS, the 457 plan, but not necessarily. I'm sorry, go ahead, Patty. What?
The SSP.
Yeah, we're asking the board to approve the resolution that would initiate this 457
Right.
SSP through TRS, yes.
Right, but not exactly if we're going to self-administer or go through the state.
Well, it would be through the state.
It would be
yes.
through
We
the
don't have a
state.
choice.
Oh,
So,
I see.
yeah, this is, we're presenting it to you, but it's really, we have to do it.
We're voting on something we
Sorry to
have
say
to
the
do no matter
With
what.
reservations.
Not my.
We're voting for more options here.
Not
Yeah.
my demand, but.
This is a formality, we have to do this.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. I don't want to go rogue on the board, so I think we probably would need to.
So there's
do
no
this, so.
choice, Bruce.
Thanks,
That's what you're
Bruce.
saying.
Yeah, right, gotta do it. You don't have a choice.
I
Clear
guess
as
that
mud as
ends,
everything
that
else
ends
you
all
do.
that ends all the questions, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Well articulated. Thank you, Bruce. May I have a motion that the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing execution of employer participation agreement for system supplemental savings plan through the Teachers Retirement System of Illinois?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. May I have a roll call?
Yes. Rego?
Yes.
Haid?
Yes.
Jelwick?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Radzinski?
Yes.
Figueroa?
Yes.
Tinkpopong?
No? No, just kidding. Yes. Yeah.
No.
All right. So let's get
Scared me
to the
there.
committee reports.
You almost reviewed the whole thing all over.
That's right.
I didn't get the memo, right? Yeah. Board reports, let's start with the BCF.
We had a meeting last Thursday. Nothing new to report.
Board DI committee, we discussed meeting, and it's going to, based on our scheduling and a lot going on with our next meeting, we're going to probably go through it in April. Finance and Facilities Committee, we had the meeting earlier this morning. Carrie, John, do you have any? We went thoroughly on it, so.
I think it was covered very well in our meeting, and I think it was covered very well in our informational item, and we have a lot that's going on, we have a lot to consider, and we're gonna keep the public as well informed as we can, and just reassure everybody, we're doing our due diligence, and we're listening to the input, and we're gonna try and make the best decision possible moving forward, and that's more than I wanted to say.
Thank you. Well said. The ISB delegate, I don't have anything to report. We've got a meeting coming up for members. It should be in your invites. And Lend?
Land, real quick, there was a meeting 2 weeks ago. I've put that in my report to the board approximately a week ago. It's new legislation in Springfield. There's approximately 14 of them. Once again, they have not been voted for.
No, there's a couple.
There's more?
Couple interesting ones. You know.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, like mental
Yes.
health days and also the teacher evaluations for tenure.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll see in the next couple of months where those new legislation fall into place.
Thank you. NEDSEC?
It was 2 meetings, and one of them, it was James attending 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
And the meeting from Monday, we didn't make it. So we don't know about it.
Right, I will provide a briefing at my board report on that one. But 2 weeks ago, it was basically planning for the summer school at the NEDSEC facilities.
All right, thank you. And the Board Policy Committee?
Nothing.
We've got in a couple months, we have one coming up, right?
We do, we have not received any
haven't.
new policies.
Yeah. So the next board meeting for new business, next board meeting Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. As usual, and Board Finance Facilities Committee meeting will take place prior to that regular March board meeting as well at 6. So may I have a motion and a second to go into closed session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of the public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with the Act, Law 5 Illinois CS 122C1 and collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Again, repeat 5 Illinois CS 120C2, 2C2. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll take a breath. Okay, roll call, please.
Rego?
Yes.
Rego?
Yes. Sorry.
Jalowicz?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Redzinski?
Yes.
Figueroa?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Yes,
Paul?
and yes. Motion passed to go in executive session. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back.
We're getting loopy over here.
into open session?
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please. Oh, here.
Rego?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Rosensky?
Yes, please.
Figueroa?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Jalowick?
Yes.
Tinkle-Pong?
Yes, motion passed, and we are back in open session.
Jim, are you ready? Open session.
Okay, we have no further business, so may I have a motion and second to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Rego?
Julie?
Yes.
Okay.
Rosensky?
Yes.
Figueroa?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Jalowick?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Tinkle-Pong?
Yes, everybody have a good night, and meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And that
So,
was much
John,
rejoicing.
John,
Ma'am.
you motioned for the open session, but, and was it Carrie who seconded?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank
Sure,
you.
that sounds great.
Okay.